meant to put this on a. Let me take one moment here and put my questions up here so I don't have to keep looking down.
Sounds good.
All right. Good. Okay. Well, thanks so much for being with us, and thank you for taking the time, Patrick. I wonder if you just would start by introducing yourself and kind of explain a little bit about what Randstad does and what you do for your workday.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So my name is Patrick Hopkins. I've been working as a staffing manager for Randstad's general staffing branch locally here in Montgomery County for just over 2.5 years now. We do a full desk model. So I am a recruiter. I'm a salesperson. I'm a consultant, a customer service rep, receptionist when I have to be, anything that you can really imagine. It just really depends on the day and what is going to be the driving force behind either my sales activity or my recruitment events. So it really does fluctuate, but I guess that's a brief intro.
Terrific. And what do you spend most of your day doing?
So it does fluctuate, as I kind of briefly answered there. So, I mean, it could be a full-on sales block all day long. It could be a full-on recruiting block. I could be answering phone calls for the 2 other employees in my office here that are out on meetings. So it really is broken down basically on those activities that are going to drive results. So, I mean, to get started, I'm going to be talking to some of the clients that I'm actively working with, or I have most recently worked with, just checking in and seeing if they do need anything, or if we have people there, checking to see how everything is going. An important part of what I do is going to be making sure that the service I have provided is working out. And if not, what can I do to change that? If you have the conversation early enough, then there are some either warning kind of yellow, red flags that you can change pretty quickly to make sure that everyone does end up happy and everything kind of rolls over pretty smoothly there.
Sounds cool. And you mentioned there something really important about priorities. I was wondering, like, how do you set your priorities? Do you have certain goals, and how do you go about setting those?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, obviously, what we do here is we try to help as many people as possible get back into the workforce or make a transition between jobs. So in order to do so, you need to make sure that you are managing your day and prioritizing effectively. So if I have 100 different positions to be working on, but no candidates to fill those positions, I'm not going to be doing very good at my job, and vice versa. If I have 100 candidates looking for positions, but no jobs to place them in, then again, I'm going to be in some trouble there. So it's really being able to balance out the day well enough. So, I mean, occasionally I'll be in a sales block and I'll get a position that I know I have the right person for immediately. So that's where I can shift out of my sales activity to talk to them, and vice versa. If I have a recruiting effort and I interview a candidate that's fantastic for X, Y, or Z client, I might give them a call right away because they're going to see that excitement, and that's going to translate very well in, again, staffing and being successful.
That's really interesting. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about matching the client with the candidate that would be taking over that job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there are a lot of factors that are going to go into it. And the difference with what I'm doing, as opposed to maybe some specific job sites or someone sending in their resume just off a posting that they found or that they know about, is I'm going to find out a few of those extra factors, right? And that's also going to be a really big part of the recruiting effort, whereas I am going to speak to someone not only about their resume, their background, their experience, but some of those things that you can't find on a resume, which is going to be maybe their goals or some of the things that they might have done in volunteer work or some of their extracurricular activities or stuff that they did in school. So a lot of these different things are going to be very helpful for what I do because it's going to paint this whole picture for a candidate or give you almost a 3D image is one way I really like to refer to it as opposed to just sending over a piece of paper and saying, I hope they fit.
Fantastic. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how the economy is going, how the local job market is, What are you finding? You're finding more jobs than candidates, more candidates than jobs, and are employers looking for something specific right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what I have seen most recently is the job market is getting tighter and tighter. So
Hmm.
companies are still posting these positions, but it is going to be more of an exact search, and finding that perfect match that I'm always looking out for is getting more and more difficult because a lot of the candidates that are interested have maybe 80% of what they're looking for. And the 100%, that perfect candidate, is already working and has the job that they like or they enjoy and aren't looking to make a change. So it is a very difficult job market currently. Um, and with that being said, that 80% is still going to be a very good match. That's also something where you have to have the conversation about what is necessary to be successful in this role and what is maybe nice to have and something along that lines. And again, having conversations with the clients to see, is X, Y, and Z really necessary for someone to do the job very well? Because sometimes those candidates that don't have the exact industry knowledge has done the same exact thing somewhere else and can transition very easily.
Now, you had mentioned that a big part of your job is going out and finding those clients. I was wondering if you could drill down a little bit and talk about your specific um, process when it comes to perhaps a client that you haven't contacted before. How do you go about making those initial contacts?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be something as easy as I have a great candidate that is from that exact industry and just calling in and saying, who do I need to speak to that would do the hiring for this kind of candidate? And hopefully getting pointed in that direction. A lot of times it could be human resources or
Hmm.
it could be that specific department head. Smaller companies, a lot of times the owner is going to be involved in that. Larger companies, it might be broken down, even office management type roles. So it's really just pinpointing who is going to be the decision maker and
Hmm.
staying up to date with them and staying in contact with them, telling them a little bit about yourself, making that introduction so they know about you, they know what you can offer and what the benefit is for working with myself as opposed to doing it on their own, and building that rapport enough so that when that need does come up or when the questions are there or the help is needed, right, they know who they're going to call. And that's because I've been in touch with them and it's not a cold relationship anymore.
I see. So you sort of go about developing a relationship with the person, and also, we wonder if you could talk a little bit about qualifying. How do you actually get to the person who's going to be making that decision?
There's a lot of different ways. It could be something as easy as talking to the front desk
Hmm.
or even going over there and talking to individuals, calling into the department head and asking them if they specifically are in charge, talking to
Hmm.
human resources and finding out how many positions they're working on. Maybe if they're working on 100 different positions, they might need a little bit of help in prioritizing what they're going to work on and some of the things that we can help with as well.
Sounds great. And let me ask you something, and I'm going to ask you a personal question here. Do you ever get nervous about walking into the building for the first time or making that cold call for the first time?
Yeah, so I entered this role right out of college, had no prior sales experience. So those first couple phone calls were a little nerve wracking. And I mean, I think that doing it enough, it just makes it a lot easier. So the first time is going to be difficult, but know what you're talking about. Feel that confidence.
Hmm.
If you need to role play a couple times or you need to practice in front of the mirror or talk to a coworker or a friend or anything like that, the more you run through it, the better it's going to go, the more confident you're going to feel, and it just gets easier with practice.
That's fascinating. And I imagine you have to keep up with it too to make sure that you're current and that kind of thing. Do you develop things like elevator speeches and that kind of thing if you only had a few minutes with somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's more so you try out some different things occasionally,
Hmm.
you find what works for you. It's also very helpful to listen to other people. So, for example, my manager has a specific sales pitch that works very well for her. I tried it, doesn't work for me.
Hmm.
So, my coworker Alexis, same thing, doesn't really work for me, but I can take bits and pieces of that and kind of put my own spin on it. And I mean, again, it's changing it up a little bit, seeing what works, And to even go one step further with that is different people with different personalities react very well to different things. So it's developing that relationship again and finding out, okay, maybe this is a person that I need to get straight to the punch with, or maybe this is someone that I talk to about their day and see what they're doing for New Year's or something along those lines, and kind of build from there so that they have a good back and forth for any time they do need something.
Wow, that's huge. In other words, you have to match that person's tone, and you have to very quickly intuit where this person's coming from, how their day is, and that sort of thing.
And that's something that, again, practice is going to be the best bet there. And it might be taking a few times to talk to them to better understand what they're going to expect, and also doing some research on the company, knowing that, again, if it's going to be a department head and they have 100 people that they're supporting, it's going to be a pretty busy person. So they're not going to want to be on the phone for 30 minutes talking about the weather and this and that. They're going to want to know what you have to either offer them or why you're bothering them at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and so on and so forth.
That's a really good point. In other words, you're trying to fill their needs, because everybody's got needs, no matter what that is. And personnel is a big part of that. I also was really interested in, you were kind of, and I know this from working for you, you're always very respectful of my time whenever you call in, and you always listen. You do way more listening than you do talking. I was wondering if that's a technique of yours that you feel comfortable with, or how did you develop that?
Yeah, and that, I think, is going back to the whole getting to know who it is that you're working with. And again, if they're going to be very busy, they're going to have different times, or you've developed a relationship well enough that they're going to come back to you when they need it. Checking in occasionally and just keeping up that rapport is very important. But there also might be some times where you are going to drive the conversation, and that could just go back to the specific personality. It might not be someone that would have used my services specifically before and is interested in it, so wants to know some questions. So that might be where I do a lot more of the talking and get some of those major points out and let them know these are the times that I could really be a good resource for you because of what I know about your industry or your position specifically, or some of the positions you mentioned you would be staffing for in this near or far future.
That's really interesting. And how you had mentioned about making sure that you know the person's industry, know as much about them as you can. How do you go about gathering that information? Do you use LinkedIn and other social media and resources?
Doing a lot of research, going on the company website is going to be probably primarily what I would be doing, or even helping out different customers in that industry. I mean, all of these qualifying phone calls, you can find out more and more about the industry as well as that specific client. And then even the recruiting aspect. If you are going to be recruiting specific positions within that industry, talking to those candidates specifically about what their day-to-day was like is going to give you a completely different insight that maybe the manager doesn't really recall or maybe date back to, right? So being able to talk to an admin in a specific industry, what was the toughest part of your job? And then talking to the manager and saying, yeah, I mean, I know the toughest part of an admin's job could be X, Y, and Z. So someone that's really good at that is probably going to help you out. Kind of puts a light bulb in their head and also proves your expertise in the industry and is going to be very beneficial there.
Sounds great. And any other wrap-up things that you had in mind that you wanted to share? Obviously, the folks that are going to be seeing this are not professional recruiters, and but that's an important part of their job.
Yeah. The only thing that I would want to add is there will be ups. There are going to be downs. It's sticking to it and thinking back about why'd you get into this industry, right? At the end of the day, you're helping people. And those moments where I'm getting that thank you note or the follow-up call, people are so excited that you were able to help them out is really the goal here. So when you have those tough days and you're really not making any headway, switch it up where you can, or start trying to do something new, or think about some of the things that you're doing that you can do differently. Try out new things. It's all about practice, and the more and more you do something, the easier it's going to feel. It might not be the easier job though, right? It is a difficult industry to be in, so completely understand where some frustrations might come in. Just don't let it get to you and keep trying and do some different things, change it up when you can, and just go into each day expecting something new.
That sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for your time. I want you to know how much I appreciate it, and I think our audience will as well. and have a fantastic afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other question that you can think of, you let me know. I'm always available. All right.
I sure do appreciate it. Thanks.
Yep. Take care.
Okay, you don't have to go yet. I just needed a little second there so I could stop it. So thanks, man. That was fantastic. You still there? Oh, no, he's already gone. Okay.